Hi, today I'm going to do a video talking about ISIS, Saudi Arabia, Sunni Islam and Wahhabism, which are all types of Islamic beliefs, and I'm going to talk about how the ISIS belief is in terms of Wahhabism, what Sunni Islam is and how it all founded and how it all links together to help get a better picture of the current problems in the Middle East. And this is going to be one of a series of videos I'm going to publish, because the crisis in the Middle East is a big topic. There's lots of stuff going on, lots of people involved, lots of countries fighting and stuff, so it's quite a complex issue, quite hard to understand, but hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it as I do more videos in the future, and hopefully it will make more sense. So, we start off with the leader of ISIS. ISIS stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. People say it isn't an Islamic State on the mass media. However, when you consider the fact that there's a group of about 3 or 4 countries all making up ISIS, it should seem pretty clear that it is a group of countries all working together, should I say, fighting America, Russia, everyone who's involved in the problem with this stuff. So, the current leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, he is the current leader of ISIS. Some people say he's dead on the internet, however, there's nothing confirmed to say that he is dead, however, some sources do say that anyway. He's been the leader of ISIS since the 29th of June 2014, and he believes in Sunni Islam, which is a form of Wahhabism, which I mentioned earlier, and so that is what he believes. Now, what actually is Sunni Islam? What does Sunni Islam mean? How did it start? All these questions should all start to spring to mind when I say that. So, let's get to the start. Let's talk about how Sunni Islam started. What is Wahhabism? What is all this stuff? So, let's start off from the beginning. So, in the 18th century, this was around 1701 to 1800, there was a revival of movements in the Islamic world. As imperial powers lost control in history, this can be seen in terms of the Mongol Empire. Mongol Empire was originally run by Genghis Khan, and the Mongol Empire later on, during its time as an empire, it started to collapse due to basically the expansion of the land. They started having a big effect, not just in Asia but also in parts of Europe, Eastern Europe. They had a control there. However, they lost control because they had too much land, so it caused the beliefs of them to split, and they fractured into 4 different groups, I believe, and that's how they collapsed. So the Islamic world, as I said, as the imperial powers lost control, and in Western civilization, America, other countries, there started to become a separation where the church and the state started to become 2 separate things. This was starting to be seen, and as stated for the Muslims, there was a political fragmentation, as that also started to fragment from its current beliefs as well as political views at that time. And this was a problem for them because in the Quran, which was created by Prophet Muhammad, when he had a moment where he saw an angel, Angel Gabriel I think it was, this was a problem, because it said that everybody should be treated fairly and respected, and community was a sacred import of life. It should community, the collection everyone stays together as one thing. That was a sacred belief in the Quran. It was very much talked about, spoken about a lot. So, and if the poor are oppressed, or the vulnerable exploited, or the state corrupted, Muslims did everything they could to get society back on track. So if there was a problem, the Muslims would be there to make sure they would fix that problem and go back to the way life used to be before that problem arose. So they basically wanted to keep the country the same, the beliefs the same, and not have anything such as poor people or corruption or exploitation in the Quran, in their beliefs. However, also as well, during this time, like in Christianity, the religions, it was also starting to be reformed. So the original beliefs in Islam, they were starting to become reformed, so they were moving with the times. So moving to, in this case, the 18th century beliefs instead of going back to the beliefs which they believed when it was first created. So it was starting to become a reformed religion, which was quite interesting in itself. So, start to get reformed. However, one person in the Islam religion, a guy called, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Muhammad ibn Abu al-Wahhab, I think that's how you say his name. He was born in 1703 and he died in 1791. And he was a scholar, he was an intelligent person, he read a lot and found out a lot. And he was in Nahid, which is in central Arabia. And even now, his inspirations of reforms and extremists as well are around today, as I'll mention later on. Now he was concerned with the popular culture of saints and practicing rituals at the tombs. So when someone died, they got blessed and whatever, and religious ceremony, whatever, something took place. However, they were blessed to be immortals, in his case, and learn about the Quran and the traditions of its customary practice or Sunni of the Prophet and his companions. And what he wanted to do was he basically wanted to not reform Islam like it was going through at the time, the 18th century. He wanted to move Islam backwards and basically make it so that it went back to its founding principles instead of it being reformed to fit into with modern day society. So this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to basically drag Islam religion backwards, back in time, instead of modernising it. And he wanted everyone to learn the very, very starting principles and the very, very starting beliefs of it. And he was against the modern teachings of it, which is called Sufism and Shiaism. I think that's how I say it. Now, at the time, this enraged religious duties, as they thought that it would cause social unrest. People don't usually like to go back, usually. Quite a lot of people want to move forward, right? And basically say, right, we're getting rid of these previous teachings, we're going forward, we're moving forward. So when he came up with this idea that he wanted to move it backwards, there was a lot of problems. A lot of people were like, no, we don't want that, we don't want to move backwards, we want to move forwards. However, eventually, after quite a few years of talking about it, one guy called Muhammad ibn Saud, he accepted the beliefs of this al-Wahhab. He was in favour of it. Now Muhammad ibn Saud, he had a military campaign where he owned an army and he wanted to capture more land. And he wanted to do this for personal profit. and he also forbid the Arab idea of killing Muslims deliberately, or the destruction of property, and killing of women and children. So he was very much opposed to. He basically wanted to kill people while he was capturing land, which you can have your viewpoints on that, but it sounds pretty bad. Killing people to take some land, yeah, if they were an enemy threat, and you would do that, but if they were posing no harm, killing people when they're possessing no harm to someone else is, I don't know, a bit dodgy, I think, but that's my opinion. He also didn't claim that people who died in battle because of their religious beliefs should go to heaven, and it was incompatible with jihad. And what ended up happening was, shortly after this, this Muhammad ibn Saud, this army leader, he split Wahhabism up into two forms, which is this Al-Wahhab, who was the person who created it. He basically insisted that education, books, reading, stuff like that, he said that it should be done that way. It should be done through education, reading books, information, and as well as debate as well, so having a proper sit down, let's talk about this sort of stuff. This is what he believed. However, this other leader, this Muhammad ibn Saud, basically wanted to get this belief, this Wahhabism belief, through force and attacking and killing people if they didn't agree with your opinion, your viewpoint, which created two forms of Islam, as this Islamic belief, as I stated. In the Quran, the Holy Bible of Islam, a bit like the Bible in Christianity, it states that there should be no use of force in matters of faith, and believe in all the greatest revelations of prophet and religious pluralism was God's will. This was one of the comments it said in the book, the holy book, the Quran. Hitherto Sufism developed a great appreciation of other faiths. It is more popular form, which is, do not praise your own faith so exclusively that you disbelieve all the rest. So don't stick to one idea so much that basically if someone doesn't have your viewpoint, then they're horrible, they're nasty, they're evil, blah blah blah, they're the worst people in the world, right? This is what he said. As well as those other beliefs allowed Sufi to claim that he wasn't a Jew, he wasn't a Christian or Muslim or any other types of religion, and because one glimpse divine men left men made distinctions. Okay, so basically he didn't class himself as being in any particular religion, he basically had a viewpoint. However, he didn't want to get too far into that viewpoint, so he became an extremist. He just basically wanted to say, right, this is my viewpoint, this is my opinion, that's it, right, okay, move on. Don't get too in depth and extreme and blah 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 with the beliefs. Okay. Now Ab al-Wahhab, the person who created it, Wahhabism, rejected other forms of Islam. He was basically he just had one viewpoint, and that was it. He rejected other forms of Islam, arguing God can read the heart. However, after he died, after he made that comment, after he's died, Wahhabis cast this aside, and then the term Sufism, which means submit to gods, will become subjects in the Muslim world. This was just shortly after he died. After his death, Wahhabism became a violent state of terror, basically. As I say before, believing this Muhammad ibn Saud. And they basically use violence and states of terror to get their viewpoints across, using whatever means necessary to do so. With Abdul al-Aziz ibn Muhammad, this was the leader of the army. In 1801, he sacked Shia city of Karbala, which is now Iraq. This is where ISIS is in right now. And killed the leaders and land and the people who believed in that stuff, and killed thousands, including women and children. 20 against the teachings of the Quran, as I stated before. And in 1803, Mecca surrendered to this Saudi leader, this Muhammad ibn Saud. Then it was only 12 years later, the Ottoman Empire, which was also a Islamic empire at the time, they managed to defeat this Muhammad ibn Saud. They basically went up to the Wahhabism army and defeated them, had a battle with them, and defeated the Wahhabism beliefs. And this continued this way, where Wahhabism didn't exist until 99 years later, during World War I, it returned as a belief as well as a political force in the Middle East. Okay. So the Saudi leader and another Abdul al-Aziz made a statement and carved out a large kingdom for himself in the Middle East, saying, "This is going to be my land, my kingdom, this is where I'm going to live, whatever." Right? Along with the Bedouin army, which is known as the Brotherhood, which is what it translates to. And this is leading to the roots of ISIS. ISIS didn't exist, obviously, after 1914. But the problems in the Middle East through this are going to start to be shown now, and you probably start to see the comparisons here already between ISIS and the beliefs, the Sunni Islam beliefs. And he basically wanted to break up the tribes and influence them from a young age, and basically brainwash them. They plundered livestock from jihad and fighting with swords. They kept casualties to a minimum. They didn't want to kill too many people, which is what it said in the Quran, while previous leader Muhammad ibn Saud was basically kill anyone in sight who's not up for your army. So there's a little bit of difference there between the two. They kept casualties to a minimum and didn't attack non-combated soldiers. So if somebody didn't have pose any threat, then they wouldn't attack them. However, if someone did pose a threat, then they would attack them. And in 1915, the leader Abdul al-Aziz planned to conquer Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Syria in the Middle East. Other Muslim empires tried to stop them by defeating the empire, but the leader Abdul al-Aziz crushed the empires, so Wahhabism still existed by 1930 as he defeated the other empires. Then, fast forward 40 years later, by the 1970s they became a conservative movement. However, tensions between the ruling Saudi government and the Wahhabi groups was there. There was a difference between the two. By the 1970s, the Saudi government became involved American foreign policy. This is seen now as well with the oil thing. Saudi Arabia has a lot of oil supply. They basically have the majority of the oil in the world. Petrol prices are very cheap, I think I have heard. And they basically control the world's oil supply, you could argue, because they have access to a lot of it. And they're responsible for the distribution and sending out of this oil across different parts of the world, okay? So they're very much a monopoly, you could argue, in terms of the oil supplies in the world. And this is what the American foreign policy was about. After the Iranian Revolution, the Saudis wanted to conquer Asia with radicalism, with using Wahhabism in the Muslim world, to basically do that and make everyone in the Muslim world believe in Wahhabism and create this belief of basically going back to its founding principles, moving the countries back to their beliefs, which are started off with. And then in 1973 there was a rise in oil prices. This can be seen as well in more modern day times in 2014, 2015, when the the collapse of the oil was in 2014, 2015, but in 1973 there was rise in oil prices. And the Saudis decided to cut off trading with America in terms of oil, and gave it to Israel. Because America was defending Israel. We've got the Israel-Palestine conflict, and the Saudis were instead giving it to Israel, cutting off trading with America. This then exported Islam to the country. And what the Saudis did shortly after this was they basically got they printed out the Quran, the Holy Book, but they also printed it out in terms of a Wahhabism form, extremist forms, as I mentioned. So what they did is they basically got printing machines, printed out lots and lots and lots of Quran Wahhabism books, and then basically shipped them off to countries in the world, lots of countries in the world. These books went to America, they went to Middle East, Africa, Indonesia, United States of America, and Europe. So they basically shipped all this stuff off. And they also allowed the buildings of mosques in lots of different countries, and these countries, as I stated, these continents I should say, as well as also giving the poor, the people at the lowest end of the spectrum who believed in Islam, giving them free education. However, this education was biased, obviously, because it was funded by them who were Wahhabi belief, and they basically gave free education and free teachings to them, basically saying to them they promoted Wahhabism to these poor students to basically give them something to believe as a religious belief, basically propaganda. That's what the education system was. Saudi Arabia were exporting propaganda to poor countries for their education beliefs, which were armed and funded by Saudi Arabia for teachers who were promoting Wahhabism as a form of Islam. This is what they were doing. And also as well, younger men from countries like Egypt and Pakistan then associated their allegiance with Wahhabism due to a lack of funding and they wanted to obviously earn money and then give this to their family. However, they weren't earning as much money, so it then led to them becoming extremist Wahhabisms because they were doing not too well. So they became radicalised, and this then led to their countries getting mosques built in the local areas, shops, and basically separating out two genders of males and females, separating them out into two separate things. So it's basically creating a two-tier system where you have men as the higher ranking people and the women as the second class lower ranking people, if you like. This is what they were doing, Saudi Arabia, and they basically spread their beliefs in these countries as well. The Saudis also demanded religious laws. This is what they were doing. They're basically saying to them, right, we'll give you this, this and this. However, in return, we want you to do this, this and this, which was give laws, make Islam, Saudi Arabia giving these countries money in return for laws, religious laws, in terms of Islam, Wahhabism. Basically saying adopting laws so that they were promoting Islam extremism and creating this law in their countries, which these other people lived in. And after a generation of all this money being spent to build these mosques and whatever else, this led to basically people hating these Wahhabis, led to hating them. Other religions, basically, people who didn't agree with them were basically the worst people in the world, sort of thing, creating extremism. And this had a negative effect on other faiths. So Wahhabis hate other faiths who have different opinions, viewpoints, beliefs. Now, and not everyone believes in this sort of stuff, obviously. Like, you don't have Wahhabis everywhere because there's over 1 billion Muslims. They're not all ISIS fighters, obviously, as we know. But if you do this so long, if you say to them from a young age, this is what you should believe in, however they say, no, we don't want to believe in this stuff. If there's a point in the future where maybe some Muslims get angry, frustrated, they could potentially go to this extremist form because they've been taught it. However, they just don't agree with it. There's no rule saying that people could believe in an extremist form of a religion later on in life when they reject it at a young age. There's nothing to possibly say that. Now, more modern day people who believe in this stuff, like Osama bin Laden, he was a leader of Al Qaeda, one of the two leaders when it was first created as an organisation in 2003. His family was a very rich, wealthy family. His father owned a construction business and was a multi-billionaire. This is where he earned all his money from to create these organisations. They read traditional readings of the Quran, the very first beliefs of the Quran. And this led to them believing in this radical stuff. Islamists in Egypt fought tyranny and corruption, but in Saudi Arabia, they encouraged young men to join the Saudi groups in the 70s, this was in the 80s, to fight the Soviet Union, which is now Russia, as the Soviet Union collapsed. Basically, due to a number of reasons, Ronald Reagan, could say, had some influence in that when he was president from 1981 to 1989 as a Republican president in America, and due to them spending too much money in defence and not spending enough on other stuff. And the Saudis were against these left-wing governments. Soviet Union, great example of that. That was a left-wing government. They're communist, does that. And this can be resembled to modern day ISIS, where people now are obviously is propaganda on basically saying ISIS and Wahhabism is great and when other beliefs are really bad. So you can link this stuff into modern day beliefs where people go to ISIS from different countries in Europe, America, and other parts of the world because they believe they're doing it for a good cause, and they believe 100% in Wahhabism, so I've just mentioned, and these other beliefs. And a survey of some of these Saudi men who joined to fight the Soviet Union, they said that they hated the West, America. They hated them with a passion. And they also wanted to help their Muslim brothers and sisters. This can be seen in historical events in 1938 with people in Europe fighting fascists. In Spain in the Six-Day War in 1967 with the Jews. Okay, so that is Sunni Islam, Wahhabism, in its beliefs. And as we know, ISIS was formed through George W. Bush, American president, Republican, from 2001 to 2009, invading Iraq. I'm going to do some videos on that. And European Parliament, which is the Parliament part of the EU, European Union, they in 2013 identified Sunni Islam and Wahhabism as the main source of terrorism in the world. And ISIS are against the Ottoman Empire because the Ottoman Empire, as I stated, defeated the Wahhabism army. So that is the story of Sunni Islam, Wahhabism, in terms of its beliefs. Just to add a fine point is that the Grand Mufti, which is the highest Islamic court in Sunni or Ibay Muslim country, disagrees and with the comment that Muslims are extremists or radicalists, Sunni Islam and terrorists, while other groups take a more kind look on it. So that's all points. Right, my view on the current stuff going on in the Middle East, well, my view in terms of Saudi Arabia and ISIS as a organisation, a terrorist organisation, is that one of the things in the media is that basically say America's this big powerful country who's solving the problems in the Middle East, they're sorting it all out, they're there to solve all the problems in the Middle East, while you could argue they're not doing a great job of that, because if they sorted this stuff out, then why didn't they sort it out? Because we've been fighting the Middle East for 16 years, right? Why couldn't we sort stuff out earlier? But I think you've got, in order to defeat ISIS, but not just ISIS as well, the people behind ISIS, the main funders of ISIS, the people who are spreading this radical Islamic beliefs of Wahhabism and Sunni Islam, you've got to basically take out ISIS and all the other people around ISIS and take out all those people as well. And I think what we should do is we should basically invade Saudi Arabia, because as I stated, Saudi Arabia are the people who are promoting this extremism, and I think if you do that, then you'll definitely solve a few more problems. So I think they're some of the things we should do. I think we should take out Saudi Arabia as well, because they're funding a lot of this terrorism and a lot of this hatred towards other political and religious beliefs, basically saying we want Islam as a world religion, one world religion sort of thing, belief or whatever. We want to basically spread it globally so everyone eventually believes in it, and I think if you can get rid of those people who basically say that they just want one religion, then that will help, sort of. So I think we should take out Saudi Arabia, because they're the people who fund all this stuff, all this terrorism. So I think we should do that mainly, but I think we should also focus on ISIS to defeat them as well, because they are a threat, and we've seen this through their attacks in Paris and other parts of Europe, Turkey, which is not in Europe but it's close to Iraq, and in Germany and other countries. So I think this is the stuff we should do. We should move towards that sort of goal to defeat these ISIS religious beliefs. So thank you for listening to my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you agree or disagree or want to have your viewpoint put down. I'm going to do more videos in the future, as I mentioned. I'm going to do more videos on Middle East crisis, the other people, the other groups in the Middle East, like the Osama bin Laden group, of Al-Qaeda and other beliefs. I'm going to do more videos on that, and I'm also going to do more videos on UK politics in terms of discussing other things which are going on in the UK. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more videos in the future, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye. Thank you for listening.